You're watching Battery Power in a tough loss to open up the Braves postseason. They lose Game 1 of the NLDS 2-1 to the Brewers. I'm Cory McCartney along with Grant McAuley. And Grant, we expected a pitching duel with Charlie Morton and Corbin Burnes, and these two guys absolutely delivered.
Yeah, they did. We got exactly what was on the marquee. It was going to be two of the better starting pitchers in the National League, one with a ton of postseason experience in Charlie Morton, another who's vying for a Cy Young Award this year and may well win that. And Corbin Burnes showed you a little bit of why in this start, I think, because it didn't start off the way he wanted it to in that first inning, but he was able to get out of trouble. A key double play, which I'm sure we'll talk about, helped him out. And then he was able to wriggle off the hook and keep the Braves off the board. And that was really what the Brewers pitchers were able to do, just that much better than the Braves pitchers today. In particular, Charlie Morton, a couple of mistakes in the seventh inning. We can talk a little bit about why he was out there in the seventh, if you agree with that or not. That, of course, is what the postseason's all about. We run these decisions through the ringer. But as it turned out, Rowdy Tellez and a two-run homer was the difference in this baseball game when it came to giving the Brewers the runs they needed to grab Game 1 of this series behind some very good pitching from Corbin Burnes and key work out of their bullpen.
Yeah, my favorite duel, by the way, since Liz-Manuel Miranda and Leslie Odom Jr., so I'm just going to throw that out there for you.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so you mentioned it there. It was setting itself up to which team was going to make a mistake, which pitcher was going to make a mistake, and which offense was going to capitalize, and obviously Rowdy Tellez did. Certainly a sore subject, but the Braves team that suffered the second most one-run losses in baseball in the regular season with 31, they open up the postseason the exact same way. So let's get into what went right for the Braves, and obviously Charlie Morton. I mean, it went right for him in a big way. The postseason veteran was impressive for 6+ innings. The ending was tough, obviously, with the Tellez home run, but 9 strikeouts. He tied a career high from that Game 3 of the 2019 ALDS against the Astros back when he was with the Rays. Grant, the Braves brought Morton in for this situation, and we can get into the ending, bringing it out in the 7th.
Sure.
But ultimately, putting this team in a position to win a ball game. I mean, they didn't get a runner in scoring position until Tyler Matzik walked Christian Yelich in the 8th inning. Charlie Morton did his job tonight.
Yeah, I can't hang this whole loss on Charlie Morton because you have to look at the offense and say, look, you're going to need at least a couple of runs, if not more, to beat the Brewers more times than not. They're a team that won 95 games. They're very capable of winning, even if their offense doesn't look on paper as good as the Braves. This was one of those nights where it just took the one key hit. Now, I did feel like in the 6th inning, Morton started to waver a little bit command-wise. I didn't feel like he lost his stuff, but I kind of threw it out there online on Twitter because we're going live throughout the whole thing, just trying to think along with how the game's unfolding. I wish the Braves could score a whole bunch of runs in their half of the 7th inning so that decision would be much easier to jump into that bullpen. That's where I felt like that game had a chance to work out a little bit better than it did for Charlie Morton. Hit batsman of Vivacio Garcia to start the inning. Certainly not what he wanted. And then Rowdy Tellez, a broken bat, and wouldn't you know, he goes and gets the piece of lumber to hit the home run on the very next swing. And this may be one of those series where it's not all the big names that are going to bite you. Tellez was the man on the spot for the double play in the 1st inning with a heads-up throw to home to get Jorge Soler trying to sneak in with the game's first run. And then he was right there in the 7th inning, punctuating the night for Charlie Morton in a way that I'm sure Morton and the Braves would rather not have seen.
I hate to say that, I don't even want to say that the wheels were falling off, but you think about 6 straight balls he throws in the 6th inning. Yeah. And then that 7th opens up with him, hitting Garcia, setting the stage for Rowdy Tellez's home run. I mean, it kind of does lead to the question after those 6-inning issues, should Brian Snitker have put him back out there in the 7th? Afterwards, Snitker said, I thought he was in that zone, an area where we've seen him go back all year long. And being in that situation. But you can kind of look at it and say, okay, he had his issues. Once you hit that batter and you've got a guy, obviously where the way things are going for both these offenses, should the trigger have been a little bit quicker to get Charlie Morton out of that game?
Hey, it's October. We've seen some much quicker triggers by managers to go ahead and pull the plug on a starting pitcher and figure out a way to win today, and you'll figure out tomorrow. And I don't think the Braves were in a place where after the 6 strong innings from Charlie Morton that they were in a bad area in terms of trying to figure out how to patch it together. You just came off about a half a week's worth of off days. You have travel days that are set up in this series, so it's not like you're going to have to throw guys 4 consecutive days, 5 consecutive days, things like that. You're just getting started in your postseason run. Your bullpen's rested and gassed up. I know it's not Charlie Morton in terms of the big name that he has and the big reputation he has, but I felt like he gave the Braves enough today, and perhaps that 7th inning should have been handed over to the bullpen. But again, I just have to come back to say the offense was unable to solve the Brewers pitching staff today, And if you can't score runs, you're not going to have an easy time winning the game. And the only time the Braves were able to get on the scoreboard was a pinch hit home run from Jock Peterson. So the starting lineup really was unable to produce today. And that, I think, is probably the bigger story than Morton making a mistake and giving up the 2-run homer.
So the Braves offense goes 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position. But when we talk about things that went right, I mean, it's Jocktober, Jock Peterson, some magic off the bench. It's hard to entirely put this loss on Charlie Morton, but as we look into the offense and what did happen that went well for the Braves, I mean, you have to be excited about seeing Jock Peterson coming up big in a moment once again in October.
Yeah, it's not surprising whatsoever. This is a guy with 10 postseason home runs. He was a big player for the Dodgers last year as he made that push all the way through the World Series. The Braves saw it firsthand in the NLCS, and Jock Peterson has just been a guy that's delivered on that big stage throughout his career. And it's a guy that's great to have, to plug in, whether you're starting him or whether you're pinch hitting him in a big spot. You just kind of wish there'd been a runner on for that pinch hit home run, obviously, to push the game out a little bit further and maybe give you more chances. But you kind of had to feel that the Braves had to roll with the lineup that had been going so well in September, and that included Eddie Rosario, Adam Duvall, and Jorge Soler.
So as we look what went wrong for the Braves, I mean, I think you can openly say missed opportunities were a major issue for this team tonight. I mean, they had their chances against Corbin Burnes early, and they just couldn't capitalize, especially in that first inning. I mean, they had runners at third twice in that inning, including first and third with no outs. Obviously, then Ozzie Albies hits into that double play where Jorge Soler gets thrown out at home. That ends up being a massive play when you look back on that at the end of the game. I mean, that run could have been everything after Peterson's heroics.
It certainly could have been. And the way I look at that is, I mean, yeah, you can look at it as bad base running, and Jorge Soler is not the fastest guy on the team, but when you do see a ball hit to the right side in that particular scenario, most of the time, if it's not hit hard, there's an opportunity to score on that. Unfortunately, you had the first baseman covering the bag there, so he was right there to grab it, not only get the force out, but gun down Soler by about a step at home plate. So sometimes you just hit into some bad luck. I would call that more bad luck than bad base running, but I could understand the case for both of those things. I feel with the way that Burnes was teetering there after the first couple of hitters, you would have liked to seen a little bit more of a grind out kind of at bat from Ozzie Albies. Make this guy get into the strike zone. I know you don't want to go up there, take 2 pitches, be down 0-2, and have Corbin Burnes carve you up. It's easy for us to say sitting at home in our living room, but I would have liked to have seen just a little bit more patience there to maybe keep that pressure on Burnes for a little while longer, because it did seem like if there was a time to get to him, that first inning was it.
Yeah, and obviously he found his groove after that. And you've got to remember, this was his first career postseason start. He had played postseason experience, but it wasn't as a starter. Obviously, all the the accolades are going to come his way. Everyone had high expectations for this. He seemed to be wearing that a little bit early, and the Braves had a chance to make him pay for it and kind of shell shock him a little bit. They didn't get it done. I do think you have to give a little bit of credit to Austin Riley, though. I thought him getting that single off Josh Hader there in the ninth inning was big. I mean, obviously, Freddie Freeman working that walk. They kind of had their moments, but again, I mean, it ultimately just felt like each time things kind of started to move their way, they just couldn't capitalize.
It seemed like, and the weirdest at bat of that whole ninth inning for me was Adam Duvall on the first pitch, bouncing it right out in front of the plate, 3 or 4 feet, right to the catcher. He's able to get the out at second. That would have been the potential go-ahead run. So it kind of short-circuits your rally just a little bit. And then, of course, you're going to go to the pinch hitter because you don't have Eddie Rosario in a lefty-lefty matchup against Josh Hader. That's just not one that you're going to love. I don't know if you love Orlando Arcia there either, but your choices are what they are at that point. Just not an inning that unfolded the way the Braves wanted to. They put some pressure on Hader. Riley, the Freeman walk, which I wasn't sure he was going to get after that just egregious strike one call that was put on him early in that at-bat. It was not a whole lot of fun to watch when you think about stuff that's going wrong for the Braves in the postseason before. It felt very ominous. But Freddie got his walk. Riley got his single. But after that, the Braves just weren't able to get a big at-bat from Ozzie Albies again. I love him batting right-handed against a lefty, but Hader was able to expand the zone on him. No shame in that because he's done it to a lot of hitters this year, but there were a couple of times in this game for Ozzie Albies, who I'm sure is well aware, more aware than any of us are that are watching this at home, that he wanted to come through in those spots. Hopefully that's motivation for him as he moves into the series because the Braves are going to need big hits from him, from Dansby Swanson, Freddie Freeman, Austin Riley. Pick a guy that's an offensive player. Someone's going to have to come through, get that big hit, and start the Braves run machine going.
Well, opportunities lost was obviously a huge storyline for this offense in Game 1. As we look to what's next, some dubious territory for the Braves, Grant, considering that home teams that have taken game one of a division series have gone on to win the series 74% of the time. The Braves can easily, though, get a split here. When you look at game two Saturday evening, Max Fried has been the hottest pitcher in baseball in the second half, the best ERA since the All-Star break. We know this Braves offense is capable of doing something against Brandon Woodruff, the Brewers game two starter. He gave up 3 hits in 5 1/3, the Braves back in July 31st. What to you, Grant, is the biggest key for game two?
It's just being able to have a short memory in these series, because as you look at it right now, the Braves have got to win 3 out of the next 4 to advance. That's the simple math. But this game is done. You can't get it back, and you don't need to be thinking about trying to win 3 out of 4. I would be concentrating more so on winning game two, getting that split, then coming home knowing you got to win 2 out of 3, but 2 of those games are in your ballpark. So the Braves are still set up with one of their best starting pitchers, Charlie Morton being 1A and 1B being Max Fried, or if you prefer, you can flip them around if you like. But either way, biggest game of the season for Max Fried. You're going to need to see more of what you saw from him from August 1st on, and the Braves are going to have to figure out a way to put some runners on base, put some pressure on Brandon Woodruff, and get some runs across the board, whether that's by home runs or any means necessary. The Braves need to escape Milwaukee with a split of this series.
Yeah, it's not an elimination game, but it certainly feels must-win for the Braves. Earn a split there and get back to Truist Park, and the Braves have got to feel a lot better about this series. And, you know, obviously percentage there weighing in the Brewers' favor, but the Braves certainly in a situation where they can potentially take game two with Fried on the mound. However it plays out, we're going to have you covered here on Battery Power after game two. So make sure you're subscribing to the Talking Chop YouTube channel. Turn on those notifications and make sure you get alerts for all of the latest episodes. For Grant McAuley, I'm Cory McCartney. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, Braves Country.